And we're live.
We are live. Here we are.
Here we
Hey,
are.
folks. It's Thursday night. You know what that means? It's time for the Lincoln Project's Breakdown. Maya May hosting as always, and yours truly along for the damn ride.
Yeah, it's DEI's fault again. I was going to say it's DEI's fault again.
It's always DEI's fault.
It's always DEI's fault.
I just wish they would just be honest about it. They just want to use the N word and the R word and the F word in public, and they want to get away with it. That's what all this DEI garbage is about with these people. None of it's real. It's all a giant white dude, small dick energy indicator.
Are you telling me that Donald Trump is not making good on his promise to unite the country?
Yeah, no, I'm going to tell you that. Yeah, he's not.
Because I talked to my MAGA neighbors and they told me that it was all just rhetoric and that he wasn't going to do any of the things that he said he was going to do.
Well, you know what? God bless their little pea-picking hearts, as we say down south. Hey, folks, welcome to the Breakdown. Howdy, folks. It's this has been a weird week, obviously, for all the usual reasons, but a really weird, bad 24 hours because of this terrible crash in DC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're a pilot, so I immediately thought of you when this happened because I know just the aviation industry is kind of a tight-knit group in many ways. And so I know this hits close to home. And so
it also hits close to home for me because when I worked at the Department of Defense, I took that route a number of times, leaving the Pentagon, going up to Andrews Air Force Base with Secretary of the Air Force, the Secretary of Defense, or various VIPs. You know, I know that exact route. I've flown into National Airport and Reagan Airport. I'm so old, I call it National still. Flown into Reagan, I kid you not, probably 500 times in my life. And, you know, when this thing happened last night, the first terrible thought I had was there's one rule in aviation that it's every pilot's responsibility to see and avoid. And immediately there was a sort of Occam's razor of these guys found themselves confusing one plane at night for another plane at night. And let me say this, guys. As pilots, you always try to manage risk. You always try to manage your risks because the risks never go away. All the rules of aviation are written in blood. And flying at night is a risk. Flying in crowded airspace is a risk. Flying in the traffic pattern area of a major national airport is a risk. Flying with night vision devices is a risk. Flying with under the pressure of it being a flight evaluation, which it was for these Army pilots in the Black Hawk, is a risk. And risks don't add up; they multiply up. And so, you know, as a pilot, you need to be aware of your environment, your aircraft, yourself. You have to sort of run through all these personal checklists. Am I safe to fly? Am I good to go? Am I ready for this? And as much as these pilots seem to have some experience in the area, fate and bad luck and you can blink for 1 second and a midair collision is the pilot's worst nightmare because whether y'all know it or not, planes are pretty fragile. And this was the blink of an eye, one misunderstanding. And we've lost 67 lives and 3 military folks out of that group in the Black Hawk and the remainder in the American Airlines flight. But I'll tell you what didn't cause the crash, Maya. It wasn't DEI.
Yeah, it wasn't
the woke who have taken a very unfair hit from a lot of these MAGA people with this theatrical bullshit today. Let me tell you something. I can say this with absolute unequivocal certitude. Air traffic controllers have saved my life before. Hey, don't go there. That weather will kill you. Hey, look out for traffic on your 2 o'clock, 1,000 feet above. You know, tell us you have the plane. this is an accident, and accidents are terrible and often inexplicable, and we investigate them very thoroughly. And we've got an extraordinarily safe air system in this country. General aviation pilots like myself, a lot of us are in what we call the safety cult, and I am a proud member of it. Commercial aviation is institutionalized safety at every level. We haven't had an air traffic accident like this in 15 years, and that's an amazing record. But Donald Trump, of course, and MAGA, of course, today had to try to turn this into their usual bullshit parade. Oh, it's DEI. Oh, it's wokeism. Oh, it's because Joe Biden didn't, wanted people who weren't qualified. Let me tell you something. To be a pilot, y'all, is not trivial. Yes, you can be a VFR pilot. You can go clock 40 hours and go fly around and, squawk 1200, fly around in nice weather. To be an instrument pilot, you have to go up a whole big step. To be a commercial pilot, and then to be an ATP, which is the airline transport pilot, which is what the guys flying that plane were, is an even bigger step, and they are trained and trained and trained. There's no DEI involved in it. If you can't make the cut, if you can't fly the plane, if you don't know the systems, you're not going to be flying that plane. I don't care what imaginary DEI demons are out there for the Republicans. And for the military, same thing. Intense training all the time. They were experienced. They had time in type. They had time in that area, and they made a mistake. And that's what Occam's razor right now is, that the helo guys were the ones at fault. But we don't know that yet. We haven't had an NTSB report. We haven't seen them review all the data. We haven't done anything. But Donald Trump has declared that it was DEI that caused the crash. And that is as ghoulish and shitty as a human being could possibly be. This is a day. Many people have lost their lives. Many families are in absolute mourning right now. Trump went into the briefing room today and read that speechwriter written pro forma statement and couldn't wait to start being an asshole to people. Couldn't stop himself from jumping into this whole thing and playing the blame game with Biden and everything else. And look, all I can tell you is that aviation, again, the rules are written in blood. It's a very tough, very, very serious pursuit at the commercial and the general aviation level if you're doing it right. And with all that, you can't make every risk go away. Last night was a night where the risks piled up or multiplied, and we had a bad night. I'm praying for all the families and the folks that were involved in this accident, and I want to salute both the ATC folks who are trying to mitigate this and prevent this, but also the fire and rescue guys and the Coast Guard and DCPD, Alexandria PD, Arlington, everybody else, the entire metro area. It's one of those things that showed us at our best, weirdly, rather than at our worst. But today, Trump had to show us at our worst. So
yeah, and part of the no, and it's important to hear that, 'cause it's heartbreaking to see him take a tragedy, and this could be a time to actually unite the country, and it could be an opportunity for him to show compassion. And the fact of the matter is, it's an opportunity to ensure that it's not going to happen again by saying that this is how we're going to make things safer. And so going on and on about DEI is not going to make anything safer. And what's worse is it's possibly like some of his actions that make things less safe, because chaos doesn't make anybody think clearly. And so that was one of the first things that he did, was he gutted the Aviation Safety Committee. And so when you're creating an environment where people
having the head of the FAA quit on January 20th, we don't have a head of the FAA right now, not even an acting.
Right. Yeah. And so when you create that kind of environment, anybody knows who's been in any kind of work environment, when there's chaos and people are losing their jobs, everybody's on edge. And so if you're creating that kind of environment, that's not bringing the country together. That's not what people need right now. And so he's failing over and over again. And so I think it's important, and I'm glad that Democrats are pointing that out, because they're not the ones politicizing it. He politicized it, and they're simply pointing out facts. So. Yeah,
and the degree to which he's politicized it has continued this evening, as he keeps making like an absolutely vile joke. Like, how do you think I'm going to get to the crush site? Am I going to swim to it?
Yeah,
This
no.
it's just a reminder. There is no bottom with Donald Trump. There's no lower limit to where he can be expected to not be a complete flaming asshole. And
We
here
have a
we
clip
are.
of it for people who, because there's been
Yeah,
so much
let's
news
play
lately.
that.
I don't know.
Let's play that.
Yeah.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
If there was a show called America's Most Punchable, he would.
Can we say that now? I feel like the FBI and Kash Patel's going to show up at the door.
Listen, Kash Patel's coming to cause trouble for us, no matter what. But it is regrettable again that and look, I'm an experienced pilot, but there are people who are pilots from that area who fly into that airport, both on the commercial side and the military side, who have spent all day saying, this is a mistake. This is an accident. It's horrifying. No one's proud or happy about this, but it's not amenable to Trump's, I have common sense. That's why I know it was DEI.
Yeah. Well, at least he's fixed everything with an executive order, yet another executive order, an unplanned one. I think he just wants to. Do we have him signing this one? This one, it feels like I think they made it up like on the spot. Like I don't think he even knew he was about to sign this executive order. They just
he's got his executive order valet standing next to him all the time now. So.
I want to
Thank you.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator, in this case, acting FAA administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over everything.
He looks like he just got it for the first time. Like they're handing it to him and he's reading it like he's getting a menu at a restaurant. Right. Like, oh, what's this? What's the special executive order for today?
Can I have the blue plate Donnie special? Look, I also want to say something about air traffic controllers. They also are trained, and the ones that survive to make it into a place like DC, these guys are highly trained. They spend 2 years as probationary air traffic control officers. You don't get to DC without knowing what you're supposed to do. Now, the system is vastly undermanned, by the way. That is not because of DEI. It is undermanned because we ask these people to do air traffic control for long hours at high stress and for shitty money. And so, I don't know. I wanted to throw a little appreciation for them into the mix today, because they've taken a lot of crap too. This is not the fault of DEI, folks.
Yeah, not Black people's fault. Just want to say that. I don't think so. Anyway, but all of this is distraction, and we know this is a distraction because it was halfway through the day where I was like, oh wait. Isn't today a Tulsi Gabbard hearing? Isn't today there's a lot of key hearings that are going on right now, and Donald Trump loves to make a lot of noise to distract us from all of these terrible people.
The real things.
Yeah, exactly. And so I want to go over some of those real things.
Let's do that, because some of it is truly fucking bonkers.
Yeah, I kind of want to start with Tulsi Gabbard, because she had a very, very easy question to answer, and couldn't get this one right. And they asked her multiple times. And I was like, this is an easy one. You could just say yes and move on.
This is the easiest question. And by the way, I just want to say this as somebody who knows the intelligence community. Not answering this question properly is going to mean there's going to be a lot of malicious compliance if she gets this job. This was a bad, dumb move on her part. Anyway, let's roll it.
Oh, looks like we don't have sound with the clip. I want to, but this is, he's asking her if Edward Snowden is a traitor.
Right.
If she could say yes to Edward Snowden being a traitor. And instead of just responding yes, she went on this brief
humana. Well, maybe sort of, kind of, if he should have come to the Inspector General, but here's the thing. She's raised money for Edward Snowden. She has advocated bills to pardon Edward Snowden when she was in the House of Representatives. This is the reason that her nomination is on a knife edge right now, is because, folks, I know it seems like ancient history now, but Edward Snowden stole American secrets and gave them to Russia and put American lives at risk. He put
she couldn't call him a traitor.
Security at risk. He has admitted what he did. There's no doubt about what he did. He stole some of the crown jewels of American intelligence and gave them to the Russians. Not because of some high and mighty moral calling, but because he's a fucking traitor. And Gabbard being unable to say those words, striking, absolutely striking. I mean, really a disqualifying moment. And there were some Republicans in that room, you could tell, Maya, who were very discomforted by this, who were very like, come on, I'm throwing you a softball here. Let me help you.
He's like, when he fled to China, when he got Russian citizenship, which I forgot that he did that. Like,
oh, yeah.
Does that make him a traitor? And the fact that she was like, oh, I'm going to focus on the future to make sure that future Edward Snowdens don't happen. And it's like, you can do both things. You can focus on the future and also say that he's a traitor. And so if you want to be the director of
both things can simultaneously be true. He can be a traitor, which he is, and you can focus on the future, which you should. But it is really striking to me how completely unprepared for this hearing she was on some things that were pretty 101 questions. These were not hard questions. These were things any prep would have had her ready for. And she's very stubborn. You can see the stubbornness in her, where she thinks that she's gonna get out of this room because without taking a mark, because she's Trump's girl. And that's just not going to work that way. And I will say this, folks in the intelligence community that I know, and I've been friends with a long time, inside and retired, the degree of hatred, panicking, sickness, not because she's going to come in and reform the intelligence system, but because she's going to sell it down the fucking river, is unbelievable right now. I mean, there's a very great sense of fear and panic about this, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, and I want to point out that none of these actions that anybody's been taking in this last week or so have made America great again.
I know they have not, Maya. It's an amazing coincidence that the greatness still seems to be lagging behind.
Yeah, and I don't think they're making America healthy again either, because watching the RFK Jr. hearings, I'm going, what is happening with Mr. Frogs are gay because of the water?
Listen, I don't know about you, but I've never been a fan of the anti-vax movement to begin with. But RFK got his tail whipped so badly in 2 separate hearings in 2 separate days. He did not know the difference. Let's skip the vaccine stuff for 1 second. He did not know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Strikes me, you're going to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You might want to know the difference between the 2 largest government programs outside of Social Security. You might want to know that difference. It might be important.
Do they not give him a cheat sheet? Can he have like a little thing like in Spies Like Us where he like pulls the thing out?
Spies Like Us. I fucking love it.
Doctor, Doctor.
The Bob Hope bit in that movie to this day still pleases me. Anyway, but look, he is clearly insane. He's clearly not healthy. I mean, this is a guy who is not well. He is clearly a liar because he got his tail whipped repeatedly yesterday, over and over, and today, over and over again, being asked questions like, did you say X? No. Here's a tape of you saying X. Oh. Did you make money off this anti-vax lawsuit company that you formed? No. Here's the money that you have in your own financial disclosures that you filed this week. I mean, I think he had a truly, I mean, look, one of the things we have to acknowledge is parts of the Trump universe are very effective. Their appointment clearance folks, when they can't just browbeat people, they're not sending their best. This was not a great moment for them. And I think it really speaks to just how unprepared he was and how unwilling to be prepared he was.
But also, they don't have a deep bench either, and they're going to need one because we know how Trump goes through his cabinet members. And
yeah, so he's going to wake up one day. He's going to wake up one day and say to somebody, whether it's Carolyn Levitt or Jared or Ivanka or Susie Wiles, do you think so and so is doing a good job? I don't know. I have a friend who says they're not doing a good job. And about a day later, they're out on their ass. Okay, that's just how it goes. That's just
still January.
And it's still January. It's January 75th today, as Jon Stewart said.
But
Renee posted the thing today. Is that I'm doing a January challenge called January.
And I don't know if I'm going to make it. Like, I really don't. Like, it's like Duolingo, but sadder, a lot sadder. But I think the key thing to note is that he's hurting people. Like, there are parents, there are families who are looking towards our leaders when it comes to health, and they're looking for solutions. And this man clearly has zero solutions. And so I think it's important to hear from a parent. Maggie Hassens,
can we have a clip of?
Yeah, let's roll that. Yeah.
Concern about the need for science to help us move forward on critical issues. Now, some of you are new to this committee and new to the Senate, so you may not know that I am the proud mother of a 36-year-old young man with severe cerebral palsy. And a day does not go by when I don't think about what did I do when I was pregnant with him that might have caused the hydrocephalus that has so impacted his life. So please do not suggest that anybody in this body of either political party doesn't want to know what the cause of autism is. Do you know how many friends I have with children who have autism? The problem with this witness's response on the autism cause and the relationship to vaccines is because he's relitigating and churning settled science so we can't go forward and find out what the cause of autism is and treat these kids and help these families. Mr. Kennedy, that first autism...
He's not a serious man. He's a conspiracy theorist.
And he's a fucking profiteer, okay? That's the thing people really need to understand. He does this anti-vax shtick because he works for law firms who go out and sue vaccine companies. He doesn't believe shit. His own kids, according to his own cousin, his own children are vaccinated. He doesn't believe any of that. But he's made tens of millions of dollars from what I've read on these lawsuits where he gets a chunk of lawsuits when plaintiffs' lawyers go out and sue vaccine companies. And normally they're like, shit, we don't want to fight with this guy. We'll just settle. And so he takes a slice of the vig. And it's repulsive.
I've seen him pop up in my Instagram when it reset, and he popped up in an Instagram ad for some sort of like ping pong punching mobility thing, and I was like, I don't want my Health Human Services secretary on Instagram peddling like wares. Like,
Yeah,
no,
I also don't want it to be. I also don't want it to be out going to places like American Samoa and telling parents, don't vaccinate your kids against measles because they'll get autism. And then you have a measles outbreak that sickens 1,800 kids and kills 59. This guy is pernicious, and he is. Look, a lot of these MAGA appointees are really terrible human beings, terrible, low rent, horrible human beings. He is of a particular class of terrible human being that I think I toward him as basically boundless, because he is a guy who is willing for financial and political points, willing to watch kids die, to get polio and measles and typhus and diphtheria and mumps and God knows what else.
And apparently, for Black people, he just wants to just experiment on what may or may not work for us, because we have different immune systems. We have stronger immune systems, according to him. And so we'd have a completely different vaccine
Perhaps
schedule.
reopen that research at Tuskegee while he's at it. I mean, this guy is the outrageousness of it. I wish it was funny. I wish it was funny. But it's just not. This is a really bad person who will do truly terrible things that will harm so many people. And I just find it sad and outrageous and disturbing that more people in the Senate wouldn't actually stand up and say, no, fuck you. I hope they do. I think he's in trouble. I don't think he's going to make it, but it's not great. He's still in the hunt.
Well, the fact that we're this far gone, like it's just a signal that the fact that we're even having these conversations and even that he's in consideration, sure. Like that's just an indication of like, oh, okay, this should probably be rock bottom. But I like the way Senator Alsbrooks was handling her questioning.
Yes,
she went in and we
had Alsbrooks footage.
On February 26, 2021, an interview with Dr. Judy Mikovits, where you said the following, and I quote, "We should not be giving Black people the same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours." Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that Blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds left. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received? What different vaccine schedule should I have received?
I mean, the Poland article suggests that Blacks need fewer antigens.
And this is so dangerous.
So you get the same measles vaccine.
Mr. Kennedy, with all due respect, that is so dangerous. Your voice would be a voice that parents would listen to. That is so dangerous. I will be voting against your nomination because your views are dangerous to our state and to our country.
I mean,
I like the way she took off her glasses.
Yes,
she wanted.
The removal of the glasses. That is the equivalent of my grandmother going, "Go outside and get a switch."
Exactly. Yeah, that was my grandmother too. She got the switch from the South. You know?
She goes, my grandmother would say, "You get it off that elm tree. It better be a good one. Don't make me get the switch."
Yeah, she's like, "I'm going to hand your ass to you now, and I want to see you clearly while I do it."
Well, and look, the fact that he is so dishonest and such a liar in the course of this entire set of hearings, I think has hurt him. And I think there is a bit of a bridge too far for some of these senators who are looking at this now, knowing that in 26, by 2 years from now, we could have like kids getting polio if this guy gets his way. We could have many cancer studies frozen if this guy gets his way. Guys, he's not a good person. He's a bad and dangerous man. And I think that is starting to break through a little bit. I still don't know if we're going to quite bump him out of the box. I think Gabbard is in real trouble. And unfortunately, I think Kash Patel, because there's a little clack of super Trumpers in the Senate, I think Kash Patel is in reasonable shape right now. Although his hearing today was another complete throw shit at the wall, crazy nut bar, example of a guy who's dishonest and weird and willing to go and perjure himself over and over again before that committee. That was striking to me.
But also, just in addition, he's like a peculiar man. Like when I look at him, I'm like, you're a peculiar man. And his willingness to apparently stand behind some of the things that he said in the past. Like he wrote a whole book with like a list of like deep state people he wants to go after. Like that's the stuff of like that's like your crazy friend that you kind of don't pay attention to, but you still invite along to things because they're entertaining, but you don't want them in charge of anything. Like you would never put them in. So he literally, the manhunt like who speaks like that? Sheldon Whitehouse.
Let's show that. Let's show those two clips. Sheldon. By the way, folks, sometimes we despair. Oh, the Democrats don't know how to go in and fight in these rooms. Sheldon Whitehouse and Adam Schiff today showed you how it's done. Let's play those two clips back to back.
And here's what this nominee himself has said about using his office to prosecute journalists. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. We're gonna come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly. Is that a correct quotation, Mr. Patel?
Senator, that's a partial quotation.
But it's correct.
In part.
Regarding his publication of his enemies list, Mr. Patel proclaimed, "The manhunt starts tomorrow," and reposted a video depicting him taking a chainsaw to his political enemies. Is that you, Kash Patel, reposting that at the top of that page?
Senator, I had nothing to do with the creation of that meme.
Is that you reposting it, was my question.
And that's me at the top.
You said FBI agents were responsible for the violence on January 6th, and I quote you here, beyond a reasonable doubt. Is that what you said?
That's completely incorrect, and I appreciate the opportunity to address that.
I'll give you an opportunity in writing, but this is my time now.
Have at it.
An Inspector Attorney General investigation found that that was false. And you said we should impeach judges who rule against Donald Trump, who are, in your words, political terrorists.
How did we get here where we are defending a nominee like this, who makes songs with convicts who attack law enforcement? How did we get here? And where are we going? History is littered with democracies that lost their freedoms and didn't notice it while it was happening. Let's not be one of them.
Couple things here. That he was in conversation with Tim Pool. Oh, look, I just made balloons happen on my camera. We are not celebrating anything here.
We're not celebrating, folks. This isn't a party.
No. He was in conversation with Tim Pool. Tim Pool, who was one of the people who was under investigation potentially for spreading Russian disinformation, right? This is one of the tenant media guys. This is one of the influencers who was being paid way more money than anyone, and didn't question at all where that money was coming from, right? So why is the potential head of the FBI in conversation on a podcast with someone? So that's first of all. But second of all, I think across the board, the party line used to be, we back the blue. And so the fact that he was involved in any way, shape, or form with the J6 choir, apparently, which is still a ridiculous thing every time. In the 90s teen phrase, I still can't even on the damn J6 choir. The hell. We're gonna have to be prepared for the J6 choir to perform at the White House. I see it coming. I want to prepare people.
100% going to happen. Absolutely going to happen. There's no world in which that does not occur.
It is just not dignified.
But look, I mean, he lied to the committee repeatedly. He just as Kennedy did. He came out and he goes, "Oh," they asked him about Stu Peters, who is a right-wing, alt-right, super scummy, weird, racist, whatever you want, whatever word, whatever bad phrase and opprobrium you can think of. Stu Peters falls into that category. Do you know Stu Peters? And he was like, "No, it doesn't ring a bell." He was on his podcast 10 times. And then Stu Peters came out and says, "Oh yeah, Kash and I sued Rolling Stone together. We did all these projects, blah, 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 blah." Oh, so here's the thing. Republicans on that committee are saying right off the top, we're okay with an FBI director who perjured himself from the very start and will lie to us again and again and again and again and again. If that's the standard for your FBI director, you're not looking for an FBI director, you're looking for a hatchet man. Yeah. And that may be Patel's only job, but that's what you're going to get if you end up making that the standard for one of the most important and consequential jobs in law enforcement.
And see, this is the point where I feel like the Democrats have an opportunity to come out on the offensive here and on the attack and ask the American people, hey, would you rather have Kash Patel pursuing all of these vendettas for Donald Trump, or would you rather have him going after these corporate landlords, right? Because the Real Page lawsuit is still very much active. So he's not coming in any of these hearings and talking about what he wants to do to improve.
No. Look, everything he said in these hearings, I'm going to restore integrity to the FBI. Guys, everything they always say, it's always projection and reflection. He doesn't want to restore integrity to the FBI. He wants to break the FBI into pieces so that no one could pursue a crime committed by Donald Trump ever again. He does have an enemies list of people that he has said, I will go after. There's videotape of him saying it. We've played it before. That people he will go after, we either prosecute you or whatever. He is incredibly dangerous. He will make J. Edgar Hoover look like Mother Teresa in that job. This is a guy who should not be within a mile of a federal law enforcement job, and yet here we are.
Yeah. With the least competent, and yes, he's going to go after everybody. And I'm like, I want to talk about this whole thing with Guantanamo. Like, I feel like I grew up.
What is it called when you have a camp that concentrates people in a very small area? What is that called? There's a word for that.
Yeah, I think concentrate. If you concentrate them, they're all in. It's a dense.
And they're all in one area. Yeah. Listen, this country, to our abiding shame, once upon a time, in World War II, we incarcerated Japanese Americans who were American citizens, who were patriots for the vast majority. That's something that shamed this nation for decades, and rightly so. We should be ashamed of that because it was a shameful act. The entire ICE system has 40,000 beds in it right now. They want to put 30,000 beds in Guantanamo. They don't have the facilities there. They're going to have to put them in tent cities. Y'all, I just want you to know Guantanamo is a hot, miserable, humid, hot, also incredibly hot, miserable, dry, terrible place. This will not go well. During Clinton, they had some transshipment points through Gitmo, and even though those people were only there for a day or two generally, and it was a disaster. Trump wants to open Gitmo as a concentration camp. Let's not screw around with the word choice. He wants to do that because it's hard to get to. It's hard to have reporters there. It's basically out of sight, out of mind. And I got to tell you, I think the minute that thing opens, you start the clock on a very abusive and terrible system. very bad in every way.
Well, and I'm thinking about the fact that a lot of the people that ICE have been rounding up haven't been these hardened criminals that he claims that he was going to go
Everybody
after.
on the plane to Colombia, not one person on the plane to Colombia was a criminal. Not one.
Yeah, he had them they were in chains, paraded out like for a photo opportunity. And so these are all people who have families, who care about them. And the idea of people being carted off to Guantanamo, where they will surely not have access to the legal representation, because it seems like, I believe in the funding freeze, they also
that is correct. The funding freeze has frozen any ability for public defenders to get paid by the government for defending immigrants. I mean, you can't say these people are stupid. They're evil, but they're not stupid. They've made a system that they know will be highly effective in implementing. And look, folks, if you want one piece of good news, not a lot of great news, there are not 25 million illegal aliens in this country. There are currently 1.4 million people with deportation orders. Now, even if you open Gitmo and have 30,000 beds there, you're going to need a bigger island, my friend, if you're going to make this happen. Because it will not be as easy and as clean and as straightforward as Trump is convincing his people that it will be.
Right. And I think the idea that they're also this GEO group, which is the federal contractor. Yeah.
I know the GEO group guys.
And they're all very excited. They're very excited because this gives them the opportunity to go, oh, Gitmo's full, then I guess we're going to have to build another prison here, and we'll put a prison here, and we'll put a prison here. And it doesn't really feel like anybody involved in the system is going to get
Solzhenitsyn wrote about a system of prisons for the undesirable classes in Russia. Strange, it's history once again. May not rhyme exactly, but man, it sure repeats. So, or vice versa, whatever the phrase is. But look, I mean, we're looking at, I think, an idea about deportation and around this question, where they really, really want to have the most punitive system they can do. They want the maximal cruelty and the maximal ugliness. They want to make sure that they believe is they will have a great deterrent effect on people if they do this. And I got to tell you, I look at it not as a deterrent effect, but as just an exercise in pure cruelty. That's what they're really going to accomplish here is just cruelty and human damage. Because if we wanted to fix immigration, we could. They don't want to. They want a show. They want a spectacle. They want a performance. They want, they want to scare people so badly and traumatize them so badly that they never try to come to America, or they never try to return to America. And this goes hand in hand also with their stated intention that they're going to overturn birthright citizenship. You are going to see people born in the United States of America in Gitmo, folks. You see people in Gitmo. If that makes you comfortable, if that makes you happy, if that's something that makes you smile, get psychiatric help, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we must absolutely do right now, because we are in the thick of it, but we're also in the beginning of it, is for people to start pushing back, but also start thinking on the offensive as opposed to always on the defensive. Because I feel like despite the fact that everybody knew this was coming, a lot of people have been caught flat-footed, and I think a lot of people are seeing cruelty in ways that even they themselves didn't think it would be that cruel. And so when I see families that have somebody who's been working here for 30 years of their life being carted away, nobody was asking for this. And Tulsi Gabbard kept saying something about a mandate and the mandate. And they want you to think that the vast majority of Americans are behind this idea of deporting millions upon millions of people. Nobody in the cities.
About 20% of Americans believe we should get rid of birthright citizenship, which is about the same as people who believe they had a UFO stick something up their ass at some point. We all agree that illegal aliens who commit heinous crimes, they should go. That's like 80% of Americans believe that. And that's not the argument we're having, though. They're trying to go out and separate families in this theatrically cruel way. They're trying to go out and break up people who are doing labor in sectors in this country that white folks do not want to do, and Americans do not want to do, and black folks do not want to do. Because let me tell you, the stoop labor that immigrants do in this country is the hardest thing you will ever do. The idea that they're going to try to intimidate these folks into leaving the country, it's not a zero-sum game. We are going to take enormous economic damage from this. Try to get construction workers right now in this country. Try to get ag workers in this country. Try to get people to work in a chicken processing plant or a hog processing plant right now. This is there are no Americans who want those jobs because they suck. Those jobs are brutal, tough, long hours, terrible conditions, and these folks are willing to go in there because America is something bigger for them. They're here because their lives in this country can be a little bit bigger than what they had at home. And I got to tell you, we are. I look at us as being in a situation of terrible moral peril right now because of all this.
Yeah, but not just that, also the destabilization of what it means to be an American, because the American dream, for it to exist, requires a certain amount of predictability, a certain amount of stability. That's why people come here for opportunity, because they know here there's a formula for the most part that if you followed that formula, if you studied hard, if you went to school, if you did a certain set of things, you would have a certain outcome. But Donald Trump come and he has broken that formula. He has broken the American dream, not just for people who are aspiring to come here, but for the people who are already here. And so my thing is the people who voted for him need to pay attention. And the only way they're going to do that is if the friends and family members who didn't vote for Trump can say them, point out and say, hey, how's your life been over the past 10 days? Do you see Donald Trump focusing on things that are the kitchen table issues that are materially making your life better?
Did this work out for you?
Right? Because you can't live off of owning the libs, right? Like, what are you going to do when that runs out?
They would love to try. They would love to try to live off owning the libs, but it just has a certain upper boundary of effectiveness. At a point, it doesn't work anymore. And that point, I think, in a lot of ways, to change the subject slightly, all these executive orders and all these cancellations of grants and federal programs and federal spending, by the way, folks, which is totally illegal, the Impoundment Act says, and the Constitution does not repose the power of the purse with the president. Once a spending program has been voted on and authorized and appropriated, the president doesn't get to say, nah, I don't like that. That's woke. I'm not doing it. But right now, there are many MAGA supporters, Trump supporters, who woke up the other day and Medicaid was offline. Many Trump supporters whose kids, whether they want to tell you this or not, rely on SNAP and TANF. Many Trump supporters who are on disability or Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security, who are suddenly learning that guys like Russ Vought and this weird clack of Hillsdale to Heritage pipelined super alt-right weirdos who are staffing Russ Vaught's plan, those people don't give a shit about you. They want to burn the government down. They want to, as Steve Bannon says, end the administrative state. Well, a lot of what happens in that administrative state is that benefits are delivered to people like MAGA voters. Because as we've all known for a long time, red states are not donor states. Red states take in more tax revenue and federal program money than they give out. And so in a state like Florida, you have several million people who were Trump supporters who the Medicaid portal is down. Medicaid payments may not happen. School lunch programs are down. They may not happen for their children as soon as next week. These things are not trivial. They're not inconsequential. I mean, and they had to walk it back. First off, because a judge said, this is unconstitutional and illegal. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started to get phone calls from Congress. And folks, this is where I want to bring your attention to this. Members of Congress, Republicans included, want their constituents to have the things that they have come to depend on. Members of Congress are not sitting around every day saying, oh, well, you know, I want to make sure that 3 million people in my state get screwed and we take away their Medicare. So members of Congress started calling the White House and Susie Wiles and the White House team and saying, holy crap, are you kidding us with this? What are you doing? Well, they've pulled back on it. They're pretending they didn't pull back on it. Carolyn Leavitt, the child bride, who is the White House press secretary. I'm sorry, I'm not a judgy person, but yes, I am. But said, oh no, it wasn't a rescission of the rescission of the rescission, but it was a rescission of the rescission. The rescission is now on hold because a federal judge has come down with the ban hammer on these people because it was unconstitutional. That's why they banned it. That's why they stopped it. Wow, we have run an hour already, Maya. That's cool.
Well, there's been a lot going on this week. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of
Hey, my voice lasted longer this time. I'm happy about that.
Yeah. It's gonna be breakdown part 2.
Yeah, breakdown 2, electric boogaloo. Child of the 80s. But look, I mean, I think this moment where we are watching them have to walk back that executive order is only the start of many of these executive orders being, when they get before a federal judge, including several that have gotten before Republican federal judges who were nominated by those notable liberal squishes like Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush and a guy named Donald Trump. They're starting to look at these executive orders and the way that they're being implemented, and they're clearly unconstitutional. It's not debatable that they're constitutional or not. They are clearly, explicitly unconstitutional. And so those things are not working out the way that Trump world would have liked them to work out. And I'm here for it.
Same. Well, I like taking these. I was gonna say I like these like moments that we get to spend together where I don't have to watch what's happening in the world. It's just me talking to you.
Oh, you know what? By the way, folks, we want all of you guys to know because other groups are, I don't know what they're doing. They're sitting on their hands, or they're sitting quietly, or they're waiting for something to happen. We've been fighting against these various nominees. I'd love to show you guys an ad we have running right now on Capitol Hill. That's geofence to Capitol Hill, hitting the U.S. senators who are looking at these nominations. Let's go ahead and roll that.
It's going to be a busy week on Capitol Hill as more president.
A message for the United States Senate. This week, 3 of Trump's most alarming picks come before you. That's too far. Tulsi Gabbard, a dictator groupie, dangerously unqualified. Will your vote hand her all our national secrets? Kash Patel, a QAnon conspiracy nut who wants to weaponize the FBI and use it to attack Americans and take revenge on Trump's opponents. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an anti-vax profiteer ready to risk children's lives, cripple cancer research, and revive diseases like polio.
I would love you to just, and I think it would be so big for you.
Will your constituents understand your vote for an unscientific conspiracy nut who rejects vaccines if another pandemic hits? We understand defying Trump is tough, but you've already given him Hexif. That's enough. America is watching. The question is, are you listening?
It's going to be a busy week on Capitol Hill as more President Trump's administration makes his confirmation here.
Eyes on the prize, y'all. We can't let them
Eyes on the
confirm these
prize.
folks. That's
100%.
the key. Yeah.
Well, Maya, let's call it a night. It's almost 8 o'clock. Folks, we appreciate each and every one of you tuning into the show every week. If you are so inclined, we would love for you to go over to action.lincolnproject.us/donate and hook us up. That helps us keep this show and other products on the air. That helps us keep these messages hitting Congress every day. We're going to keep this fight going. The trick here, folks, is very simple. Donald Trump's numbers are already starting to collapse. The further down he goes, the less power he has in Congress, the less power he has to get people elected in 2026, and taking back the House in 2026 is possible and doable if we keep up the pressure. We appreciate you all. Look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for everything, Maya.
Thanks, Rick.
Woo! Woo!